What is up, guys? It is the end of the 2020 season. It's time for me to put the old girl to bed, get her all ready for sleepy night, hibernation time, right? So I'm going to take you through the process of what I do to get my cars ready for wintertime when it's not race season anymore. I currently reside in Reno, Nevada, so our winters are pretty cold. We're actually not that far away from where the Donner Party took place. If you guys know what that was, the unfortunate group that was stuck in the mountains, Sierra Nevada mountains. That's an interesting story. You guys go ahead and look into that if you want to. YouTube search it, but not too far away from where that took place. So we get some gnarly winters here, really close to Tahoe, if that gives you another idea where we're at. It gets really cold, and unfortunately I don't have a whole lot of garage space, so got to get it ready for winter. Most likely what's going to happen, so I have the opportunity to work on other projects, is she'll end up getting put inside my enclosed trailer. So I want to make sure that she's ready to go and won't freeze inside the trailer, because it's really important to make sure that you take care of your equipment even when you're not using it. There's lots of stuff to do. It's a lot more than just putting antifreeze in it and letting it sit. So I'm going to take you through that process in this video. Hope you like it. So we're getting the car ready for winter. Important things. You got to antifreeze your block. Rules state that at most racetracks, you're not allowed to run antifreeze in your car. You can run water with water wetter to keep it cool, but no antifreeze. So make sure at the end of the year, I always do this, okay? Some guys just like to drain their block straight up and call it good. I've had bad luck with that in the past. I got a block sitting back here that I did that with. All I did was drain it, and it still managed to crack. It had some water still down inside there, and it still cracks. So I'm not a fan of that. Make sure you run antifreeze in your car, okay? Drain some of the water out, put antifreeze in it, run it for a little while, let it mix in, and then you can go ahead and drain your car. Or you can leave it full of antifreeze. That's up to you. I usually drain it because I usually pull my motor out during the winter time, so I can do all my freshen up stuff. But that's completely up to you. Unfortunately for this video, I am not going to be doing that. I already put antifreeze in my car before I was going to go down and race the Duel in the Desert in Las Vegas. Unfortunately, I didn't make it because I got COVID and had to stay home. But it was already super cold here and getting down into 20 to 14 degrees, and I didn't want my car to freeze, so I already had antifreeze in it while it was here, and I was going to have to drain it and put water in when I got to Vegas. So she's already antifreezed, but I still got a lot more stuff to do. I'll give you an example of some of the stuff. We got to get the carburetor ready for wintertime. This modified runs off of methanol. Methanol is or alcohol. It is very hygroscopic, which means that it attracts water to itself. So you put a cup of it out into the atmosphere, and it'll attract water out of the atmosphere into itself, which is not good. We all know that putting water down in the motor where you don't want it is not a good thing. So plus it's a weird thing with methanol. It'll start to look like a science project if you do that. You might get some weird, like, white kind of calcium looking buildup inside, and it just plugs everything up. It is not good. So We got to get the carburetor ready to go. Same thing with the fuel pump. We're going to empty out the fuel lines. We're actually going to empty out the fuel tank. All the same reason. You don't want any water getting in any of that stuff. I like to get the car up off the ground. There's lots of stuff we got to do just to get ready to put it away, you know, let alone to go race. So I'm going to take you through what I do to get my car ready. I hope you enjoy this video. I hope it helps you out. I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but this is the way I do it, and I'll go ahead and take you through that. So, all right, so this is my IMCA modified. It's a 2018 Shaw. Kind of give you a look here. This is an open motor. This is a 383 stroker, fueled by methanol. Home built. Ames did all of my machine work. We put some stickers on the valve covers because they did such a good job. So quick look at what we're working with here. First thing I want to deal with is my fuel. So there's the carburetor underneath my air cleaner, right? That is my fuel regulator that runs. You follow that fuel line down. This is my fuel pump. I run a piston style race fuel pump. Run that blue hose. Okay. Then she goes up and over and then all the way to the back. The other thing on my fuel line, you'll notice off the regulator there was another hose, this wonderful blue hose right here. She's kind of wrapped around. Also goes all the way to the back. That is my return line. So we will get all of that stuff off and ready for winter. Let me kind of show you where it goes. They're under the deck. My toe strap, so my cool. This is how my deck is held on. Little hole. Pull up here. There we go. All right, and those blue hoses, as you can see, they come over to here, which is my fuel cell. Goal will be to empty that out. This is the fuel return, as so labeled. This is the fuel pickup. That's what feeds the motor, and this is my rollover vent. So this allows air to enter the fuel cell while fuel's getting sucked out, right? So that you don't, like when you suck on a bottle, it doesn't collapse the bottle, right? So it doesn't collapse the tank. So it allows ventilation for that. But then when if, hopefully, I never do, I need some wood or whatever, if I ever roll over, this has a check ball in it. So if I roll over, this doesn't just vent to the ground and start dumping like crazy. It's got a check ball in it. It'll cut the fuel supply off and keep everything from dumping out. On top of that, this is my filler here. That little plastic thing in there is a little rollover flapper valve. Okay, so pressure, if I were to roll over, pressure from the fuel will push that up against here to help seal this, to help any fuel from escaping through that. All right, so with all of this being said, let's get to work. Getting rid of fuel out of the car, we obviously got to have a spot to put it. Got one of my 55-gallon drums, empty 55-gallon drums that I've emptied out throughout the year. I had my choice of a bunch out there, and of course it was raining, so top of my barrel is wet. Remember I said methanol is hydroscopic, so first thing we're going to do is definitely dry this thing off as much as we can. Try to get it good and dry. You know, a very little amount of water is not going to hurt you, but you definitely want to limit the moisture as much as you possibly can. And then you got to have transfer jugs. I'm just going to use my race fuel jugs here. These ones are currently full, actually, because I'm getting ready to go race. So I'm going to have to dump those into the barrel, and then I'll have a bunch of empty jugs to start dumping and emptying my fuel tank. All right, so I had a moment of genius or insanity, something. All right, so normally when I would do this, I would go to the fuel pump, disconnect my feed line, shove that down inside a container, let it gravity feed fuel into there until it stops gravity feeding, and just swap and containers and jugs and stuff until it stops doing that. And then I would go to the fuel cell and I'd pressurize it just a little bit, not a lot, just a little bit, enough to push more fuel through the pickup tube. But this is actually the first year that I've had this nifty little tool. So we're going to do it this way. I have a pump. This cool little pump here I bought online. Couldn't really remember where. It's actually made for like big, lots of fluid transfer. I think the example that they used when I bought it was to empty a pond or pump like hydraulic fluid or something like that. So, but this cool little pump right here, you run it with a drill. It's so much better than the hand pump. Let me show you what I mean by hand pump real quick. This hand pump. Okay? Maybe you know of this hand pump. Everybody's seen one of these hand pumps. I'm sure everybody's used one of these hand pumps in the circuit track world. I hate these effing things. They work good, usually first couple times you use them, and then they get a hole in their diaphragm inside here and they leak like crazy. This one, for a good example, it leaks. It's never siphoned in its life, but you'd shove this down inside the barrel, tighten this up, shove this down in your can, pump, get it started. This stupid pump, and then sooner or later it'll start to siphon. This one never did that. But in my experience, because they're made of plastic, even doing your best to take care of them, you'll set them down in your trailer, in your shop, something will fall on it, something breaks it every time. You go through a bunch of them. This pump here was actually only, I think it was like $20 more than buying one of those, and so much faster. I love it. So this time what we're going to do is I'm actually just going to shove this right down into the fuel cell and pump directly into the barrel as much as I possibly can before I unhook the fuel end at the fuel pump and finish it off that way. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. Let's see how it works. Shove my hose end directly in there, kind of shove it off to the side here. And then on the other end, you're gonna see that shove outlet into here. So I've never done it this way before, but here's to hoping it works, because it sounds like a good idea, right? Grab my drill, attach it. Okay, first off, we make sure we have a charged battery. Okay. Sure it's attached good and tight. And then we're just gonna see if we can get this thing started. I guess not. We might have to try to get it to prime itself here. So I'll get some fuel started here. Usually it just takes a little bit to get in the line to actually prime this pump. So here we go. Get on. Take a little bit to get it going. Once you get it going, it's like a hose. Take that out. All right, so now we got as much fuel out of the fuel cell as we can. So what we need to do is get the rest of it out. There's still a tiny bit in there, and we're gonna do our best to get it out. So we're gonna grab one of our cans here. If you do not have a pump to be able to pump that out of the cell directly like that, you can do this for the whole process, what we're about to do, which is basically we're going to drain it out of the hose. We're going to disconnect it and drain it directly into a fuel jug. Most likely we're going to have to use compressed air to do that. So if you don't have a compressor, it doesn't take a whole lot of compressor. If you don't have a compressor with a blow nozzle, you're going to need one of those too. My little Harbor Freight one right there. All right, let's go ahead and get it disconnected. First off, we are going to need to come over here and get a pair of side cutters. Also has a couple other colorful names, but I will try to stick with side cutters. And I am going to need a 1-inch wrench. I know that much. This thing is zip tied to high heaven. So we're going to disconnect all of the zip ties holding it in place first. It actually had been disconnected before. So there's not a bunch of zip ties, luckily. Usually I got like 30 or 40 zip ties holding this thing together. All right, so it's nice and loose. It's not connected to anything. Okay. So what we're going to do is take the 1-inch wrench. Now, there's still fuel in the line, which means when we take this off, fuel is going to start coming out. So as fast as we can, we are going to try to get that thing taken out. And to help with that, what I'm actually going to do is I have a little kit that I made here that has a bunch of different fittings and plugs and things like that. I highly suggest getting some plugs and fittings for whatever your plugs and fittings are, whether they're -10s, -8s, you know, whatever. But get caps and plugs for all of your lines. In this case, we're going to get a plug, and I'm going to pull out a cap. Actually, I believe it's this one, -10 and -10. Yeah, plugging cap. So that way, when I pull this apart, I can plug this line off as soon as it comes off to help keep from making a mess. And then I can cap the fuel pump. I try not to leave any of my fuel system open at any time. Now, with all of this being said, a smarter man probably would have put a fuel shutoff somewhere in this line when they put it together, which would actually fix a couple other issues as well. But we'll cover that stuff in other videos. But I did not when I put this together. So I'm stuck doing it this way. All right. Let me get this set up to where you guys can watch and I can work. Bit of a mess that I'm gonna have to mop up. Then I like the cap. Now with that, I did make a little bit of a mess, but it is alcohol. It usually dries up pretty quick. I'll probably run my mop over it real fast too here in a second. But now we can safely take this line, fish it out through all of this stuff, and then we'll poke it out over the top. Pull it through, and there you have it. Now set it off to the side. Take my cap off. Set this right here. And then we do probably what is obvious. And unscrew this. Unscrew this. So right now everything's still gravity feeding. We didn't get a whole lot more, but now we're set to empty the tank. All right, next step, let's get that hooked up, and we're gonna blow
everything out into there. All right, so I've already aired up my little bitty air compressor over there, my little Harbor Freight one. Hooked it up to my air hose. You're gonna want a blow nozzle. And then, so what we're gonna do here, first thing I'm gonna do is I'm going to actually disconnect my return line here. Awesome. I'm gonna go ahead and show a cap on it. Okay. And then I want to actually disconnect the rollover vent. Okay. The fuel pickup is the big one. We still want that one connected because it's the one that has the hose that's runs all the way down into the bottom of the tank to pick up what fuel it can. Okay. So then what I'll do, I get a rag here. I turn the air compressor off because it's super noisy, but basically what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, I'm going to shove it down in the hole. I like to cover this hole like this just so nothing comes back out at me, and then I like to give it just a little bit of air. Okay, like that. That's it, just a little bit at a time. Okay, you don't want to just go full bore. It's not a good thing. You're going to make a mess. You might damage something. Don't do that. Okay. So remember from earlier, we have the hose ran to here. Okay. It is inside the fuel cell or inside this fuel jug. Okay. All right. Inside the fuel jug. So when we put air to the tank, I'm not here to explain physics or fluid flow, but basically the air pressure that you put inside the tank will push the fluid out the hose and into our fuel jug. So quick and easy. I don't know if you can see it. See how the fuel cell lifts up? You're not looking to explode your fuel cell. Okay. I can hear the check valve in there blowing around. Usually I don't have a trouble with that, but quick fix. Just flip it around. Put the cap on the rollover vent and fill it with air through the fuel return. With that, I am fairly positive. Let me pick you guys up. Now that we've done that, I'm fairly positive fuel cell is empty. It would have all come down through here and into our little jug. If there's anything left, it's come out. And I would say with that, pretty dry. Look down into the tank. And I can shake the car and I don't hear any fluid in there. If there is any, it's very little, which is good. Good, 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 good. All right, so next step, basically, we get to disconnect the big line. So I told you guys I'm a big fan of capping them off, capping everything off. So got a cap for that one, and cap for that one. I don't want any junk, dirt, debris, whatever getting down in there. So I cap them off. And then, just in case, so I don't make a mess there. Alright, so now that I have that, what I got to do is follow these hoses, cut all of the zip ties and hose clamps and anything else that are holding these lines in. I got to get them disconnected, and then I'm going to pull these hoses out. Okay. Again, I'm going to put a cap on that, and this is the return line right here. I'm going to disconnect it from here. Okay, I'm going to cap this end, and then I'm going to cap the regulate. Sorry, I'm going to cap this end right here with a plug. Sorry, so plug this end, and then I'm going to cap this end with the regulator. And then we'll pull them out. So, here we go. Got the fuel line off. This is my return line. Got it out. Normally I would make it extremely easy on myself, and I would remove this door panel and get in there, and it would just super easy. But instead, since I'm trying to keep the cars together as possible to take up as little space as possible, because like I said, most likely I'm going to end up putting the car in the trailer or outside or storing it somewhere so I can work on other stuff in here during the winter time. But as you can see, took the fuel line off here. I capped both ends, and like I said, I capped the fuel regulator over here. Capped it off just to make sure that you know, no gunk, no nothing get in there, but we're gonna get to that here pretty quick anyways. I just kind of wanted to take a quick detour on the fuel lines real quick. When you're taking them apart, it's a really good time to do an inspection on them, look at them for cracks or anything like that. This one is actually in pretty good shape. I don't see any cracks or anything like that. So what I would normally do, depending on what you have for fittings on the ends of your fuel lines here, try to get a connection, and I'll show you real quick. It's male to male, like this, like that, so that you can connect this end directly to this end and just create a constant loop. But what you're going to want to do is, of course, uncap it, dump the hose out into something safe, and make sure that it is completely empty, okay? And then this is where the marvels fun starts. Okay. Marvel's Mystery Oil. I love these little containers. They work great. They're like $1 or less, Walmart, dollar store, whatever. Or if you prefer, get a big spray bottle, fill it full of Marvels. Okay? So what you'll end up doing is you're going to take your hoses. Again, make sure it's empty. Okay? It's better if you can connect the ends with a male fitting. With a fitting like that, you get a really cool, big hoop, basically, just a big circle. Like I said, make sure your fuel line is empty. As you can tell, mine is not. I am currently draining it into what is left of that same jug. So make sure it's empty. Rock on. We're not dripping anymore, right? Again, just making sure it's empty. Sometimes this takes a second. Perfect. Okay. It's a great time to test your lines. Again, something I'll go over in another video on how to test your lines for like pinholes or anything like that. So what you're gonna do, take some Marvels. I'm gonna use this one here. And just squirt some down in there. Almost doesn't matter how much you use, just a good amount. Doesn't take a whole lot. I just, enough to put a nice coating in it. And then I tighten up my fittings on both ends. And then when that's all done, I'll roll it up. Like so. Zip tie it around right here, roll it around, let that Marvels get in there, and then hang it up. That boy is ready for winter. Every once in a while throughout winter, go to wherever you hang it up at and turn it. Just, once a week or once every other week or something, just get the oil going through it. It helps keep the rubber on the inside from drying out. I did have methanol in this, so it just keeps it flexible and not brittle and makes it to where you can use it again. Now, like I said, use a double end fitting, connect that up so it's a continuous loop, and then you can just roll it around and it'll just always be good. Just turn it quarter turn, half turn, whatever. I'm going to show you some stuff on my actual fuel line. That was my return line. I believe I'm going to be able to reuse that one, which is awesome. I'm going to show you some stuff on my actual fuel line here real quick. So here is my fuel line. Okay, this is my big line. This is what actually feeds the motor. Okay, if you look really close, here. Okay, look really, 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 really close. Let's see if I can get it on camera. See if I can get it on camera here. See all that cracking in that hose? See all those cracks? Yeah. Okay. So this hose is getting a little worn out. I got the same thing going on the other end, right? So this is stuff you want to watch out for. Okay. I have actually pressure tested this, which again I'll go over in another video. I have actually pressure tested this hose. No holes. Doesn't have any holes. You get holes in your fuel line, it'll suck air and feed air to your motor, and then you're gonna have fuel pressure problems, and that is no good. So when you first pull it out, inspect it for stuff like that. Okay. Usually when you start seeing that, if it's the end of the year, beginning of the year, just bite the bullet, change your fuel line. Don't even mess with it. You might be good the first 4 races, and then sure enough, you'll be running first, a lap ahead of the entire field, and a hole will pop up with 5 laps to go. You'll have fuel pressure issues, and you'll either have to pull off the track or you're going to lose that one, right? So don't even mess with it. Just change it out. The other thing I like to do when I pull it out, I have this canister style fuel filter, okay? And you'll notice that I write arrows on it. I also put in and out all over this thing, okay? All over it. I don't know how many people, it's happened to a lot of people that I know, where they get everything back together, get your fuel system all primed and all that other happy stuff, and fire it up, runs good for a little bit and then dies. Or they fire it up, runs great in the shop, and then they go out and put the hammer down and they can't keep it running, but it'll fire up, you know, it feels like a plugged fuel filter, or just flat out not getting any fuel. It depends on the fuel filter you got that'll make it do that. But they install the fuel filter backwards and it's not flowing right. And so it either turns into a check valve or it's not filtering properly. Or it takes everything that was in it and plugs it. That's the other thing. Make sure you clean this thing, right? Clean your fuel filter. But anyways, exact same thing that we did with the return line. You know, you're gonna take off the filter, both ends, loop it, connect it to itself. You can use the 90-degree fittings, you know, you don't have to, whatever, just get it connected to itself, get it filled full of marbles, hang it up with your return line. I am, because I'm seeing lots of cracks all along this, and this fuel line here is actually about 3 years old. Yeah, it's 3 years old. I'm glad that I got that much time out of it. I'm sure I can get more time out of it if I wanted to, but it's time. Sometimes you just got to say goodbye to old equipment. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to take my fittings off. I'll take the hoses off. I'll set them to the side until I'm ready to start putting stuff together, or until I have a free moment, and I'll steal my fittings back off and I'll make new hoses. Which this is actually a great opportunity. Things that I did wrong when I plumbed this car was I made it almost impossible to get to the fuel filter easy. I had to jack up the car, take a body panel off, just to get to the dang thing. If this thing plugged during a race, I was going to be miserable trying to get it out.
to clean it and put it back in the car. So I'm going to locate my fuel filter into a better spot, and I'm also going to add some turn-offs, some valves, probably at least one coming from the fuel cell. That way, when I do this fun stuff and I pull the fuel line off, I can turn the fuel off and it doesn't all just run onto the ground, and I don't have to play that game that you just watched me play of, you know, I'll plug it as fast as I possibly can. So I'm going to add a turn off valve for that, and I'm going to place the fuel filter in a better spot. But we'll do that when we get to putting the car back together for next season. But for now, that's it for the fuel line portion. Like I said, I'm going to go ahead and change this, but it's the same stuff. Get that marbles in there. Can't have too much of it in. I'm sure I'm going to go through a de-winterizing process, and we'll go over how to get all that marbles and stuff out for when you put your car back together. So now that that's done, let's work on the portion that goes from the fuel pump to the carburetor. That's the fun stuff, right? All right, let's do that.
All right, so the next piece here, we are gonna go to the carburetor and the regulator over here. So definitely got to get the air cleaner off. This is a cleanable air cleaner, so we're gonna just set it to the side for now. Got my carburetor air cleaner gasket, set that there. We're looking, and yes, this is a beautiful, beautiful competition carburetor done up by Bob Oliver. That dude is a magical wizard. If you need a carburetor done, talk to Bob Oliver. I mean, he's not a sponsor of this at all or anything, but that guy knows his stuff. You need a carb done. God, man, competition carburation, Bob Oliver, right there. Sticker with a phone number. He's right here in Reno, Nevada, too, if there's anybody local watching. So first thing I do, take off the air cleaner, and then I come over to this wonderful device here. This is my carb cover. I keep it in the box to try to keep it clean as well. Got a nice little rubber seal on it right here, and I set it onto the carb. Okay, I try not to leave my carburetor open as much as possible. This bit takes a little while, but I always try to keep it covered. That will end up coming off once we get to the point when we start to marvels this, but I like to keep it covered. And actually, I know that's coming off here pretty quick. This is good enough to keep any debris from going down in there, so I'll just stop with the wing nut right there. But what we'll end up doing, this is my fuel line to my carburetor right here. This is the fuel log, goes in. Okay, it actually, I guess if you want to talk about going in, that's the fuel inlet to the fuel pump. Feeds up to my regulator. Okay, this is the output for my return. And then it feeds to the fuel log and then goes into the carburetor into each bowl. This is a 780 CFM carburetor on top of my 383. This little line right here goes to my fuel pressure gauge. So let's go ahead and start taking stuff off. Just like everything else, I like to cap off everything
as I go, just to keep stuff from getting in there. There's gonna be fuel in here, so most likely it'll come out. Come over to my wonderful kit. New plug and a cap. Okay. Get my cap put on. Bam. And then I am going to plug this. One of these days I'm going to get a good tripod, and then I can do things two-handed and you guys can just watch versus me having to struggle one-handed here. Okay. Mind you, off screen I'm going back and I'm actually snugging up all of my caps. Okay. Again, we're trying to protect from water and stuff, and a loose cap does not help protect from water. So, did that. We are now going to disconnect the regulator. I'm going to disconnect it from here. Okay, I'll leave all of this connected together, and then I'm going to disconnect it from here and disconnect it from here, and this whole thing will come off. All right. All right. Here we go. I'm going to go ahead and this disconnected. Way down here. Working on the line down here that goes from the pump up to the regulator. And then we're going to come up here, go ahead and disconnect these. Right on. Okay, it's got fuel in it. Most of it came out of the bottom of the regulator, but see, it does have fuel in it. So what I'm going to do for right now is cap those off. Right, cap, plug, right there. Okay. So like before, just like before, with the return hose and the big hose, I'll make sure that this is drained. Okay. And then I'm going to take my squirt bottle and I'm going to fill this all full of marbles. Same thing with this one. This hose actually looks pretty good. But I will fill this full of marbles. And then I will set this to the side and I'll make sure that I rotate it and move it every once in a while. Keep everything all lubricated. If you like this fuel log, I got it at Summit. It's actually Summit brand, but that'll be good. Okay. Regulator, that's pretty much usually all I do. Make sure it's drained real well, make sure it's got marbles in both sides. We might rebuild this regulator before it goes back on, just in case there's a rubber diaphragm in here that you want to keep nice and lubricated. You don't want it to dry out. It'll crack and then you have fuel pressure problems. So, and this is this was the suggested regulator that I got for this pump, like suggested to me by Bob Oliver at Competition Carburation. So that's that for that section. All right, so for the fun step, this is the part where we do the carburetor. I try to get myself a little container so I can catch some fuel.
But to sum up, what's going to happen here is I'm going to drain the fuel out of the front and rear bowl. If you're 2-barrel carburetor, you got 1 bowl, you only got 1 bowl to worry about, right? So front and rear bowl, we're going to drain them, and then we're going to fill this thing full of fluid, full of that wonderful Marvel's mystery oil. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to take out 1 screw, try to catch what fuel I can. This is not a perfect process. You just do what you can do, right? Watch it all drain out into my nice little cup. And it's going to drip all over the place for a little while. Set that there. Take this cup because it's not catching anymore. And then we get to do it again for the rear. Okay. Which I cannot get to because of the distributor. So I'm gonna have to use a ratchet. I don't really like using ratchets on these bolts. They do not take much torque at all, and you don't want to strip them out. So always be as gentle as possible. And we'll get this one out. Let that one drain as well. All right. Put the bolt back in. You can do this on your bench top if you like. I just prefer to do it on the car before I take the carburetor off. Said it doesn't take much torque for these, so I like to use my little deal here. Take that away again. Alright, we're gonna put bolt back in. It's the exact, looks the exact same front to back. A little bit tighter of a squeeze. All right, get that finger tight. Take my ratchet. I said it don't take much to torque them. Don't strip them. All right, so now that it's empty, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take off the cover. All right, now it's empty. So we take off the cover. Check it out. Here you go. All right, so these little pumps, I'm going to just squirt so you can see what happens here. Okay. Squirts fuel. Same thing with this one. All right. It just works the front set. All right, so what we're gonna do, we're gonna get us some blue paper towels or some rags, whatever you have. Okay, we gotta empty this bad boy out. Sorry, trying to rip rags here, but I also don't like flooding the engine. Even though I'm gonna do my darndest to turn it over and get everything out of the cylinders here in a minute. But we'll do this. All right, and then we're just gonna squirt until she don't like to squirt no more. She's dry. Same thing, front side. All right, down in there, reach over here, squirt this one until she's dry. Bam. Okay, so at this point you have two choices. Okay, and I'm just going to tuck this in here just like this, exact same way that we had it, and I'm going to wrap this one around to the other side. You want that to catch whatever fluid you can. At this point you have two choices. Okay, we got our Marvel's mystery oil. We need to get it inside the bowls. You have two ways to do it. You can either A, take these screws out, okay, which this is how you adjust the floats, is with these screws. You pull those out to check your float level, and you actually adjust the floats up here. But there's a hole there. You can fill it through there, or if you're lazy like myself, right through here, right through these. So that's what I'm going to do. Okay, I'm going to fill that in. And actually, I should probably show you. These are the boosters. You'll know when the bowl is full because it'll come out the boosters. See how it came out the boosters there, started dripping out of this. It means the bowl is full. Okay, and that's okay. It's Marvel's getting down in there is not gonna hurt anything. That's why I love this stuff. Okay, so we're gonna do that for both sides. All right, so there we go. Now the fun part. Get that tucked down in there as much as you can, right? And then just like before, to get the alcohol out, now we got to get the Marvels in. So we're going to pump it until you see red, just like that. Just like that. Picked up as much of the Marvels as you can. Perfect. There's actually a lot more down in there than I like to see, but the carburetor's coming off anyways. So then you can remove the rag. You can toss that. At this point, I like to actually take some WD-40 and spray the top. Like to take some WD-40 and spray the top, right? Which we said that water is the enemy, right? WD-40 is good. WD does not stand for water deterrent, but it's good for helping keep that away, keep this lubricated, keeping it wet. That's not going to hurt anything either. Okay, so nice haze of WD-40, and then I take my cover and I put it back on. All right, so and then I'll actually put the wing nut on too. Okay, so this could actually sit like this on the car over winter if I wanted to. It's not usually what I do. Like I said, I normally take the motor out, so I remove the 4 bolts in the corners, take the carburetor off, you know, take my throttle linkage and stuff off, and I take the carburetor off. I wrap it up in rags, all nice and nice and safe. And then I actually have a carburetor box. It's one of these to protect it. Nice hard carburetor box. And I stick it in there. And then she's good to go. You put it in a plastic bag as well, wrap it in rags, put it in a plastic bag, set it in a box, put it somewhere safe, and you should be good to go. I'll go over the de-winterization process when I do that, but basically it's the backwards of what we just did here. You're going to drain out all the marbles, squirt it all out, put some methanol in there, and pump it till you get clean stuff. So, but that is the carburetor portion. And the next piece is going to be the fuel pump. All right, so this part's going to be a little fun. So I already set this up. First thing I did is I took out all of my spark plugs and plug wires, just so it spins super easy, no resistance. Plus it's part of that emptying out the cylinders thing, making sure that those are empty as well. So what I did is I took a fitting, okay, an AN fitting that fits on the incoming. It's pretty big, so I don't usually put a hose on the end of it, but you can always put a little hose on here, okay. And then I have a little adapter here that I made, fitting hose, go into a bucket, just to catch whatever, so I'm not shooting it all over the place. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some marbles and I'm just going to fill this up. It does not take much, okay, does not take much at all. All right, and then I'm going to kind of cheat, and I'm just going to let the starter do it. I'm not taking the pump off, so I might as well just let the starter turn it over. With these cars, I actually have 2 switches, one switch for power that goes to the ignition and one that feeds power just to the starter. So I have the ability to come in here and just push my start button and let it crank. So I'll do that real quick. Okay, and a couple little turns on it. All of the fluid that was in there is now gone. We're going to do it because it's so short. We're going to do it one more time. There's really, honestly, not a whole lot of space for fluid inside the pump itself. So it doesn't take a whole lot. There we go. So now we have marbles inside. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect my adapter. See all that marbles junk coming out. And then I'm going to disconnect this. Move my bucket. Sweet. Yep, smells like marbles. We're going to go ahead, and I also like to just make sure that it's topped off, and then we cap it, top and bottom. All right, so carburetor, fuel pump, fuel lines are winterized. We still might have to fiddle with the fuel pump a little bit, just to finish up the rest of the stuff. It's not really fiddling with the pump itself. It's more loosening the caps so that there's no hydraulic pressure, back pressure on the pump as we spin the motor over, if we need to spin the motor over doing other things. So that is really the big thing. The carburetor, fuel line, fuel pump. You can do all of this stuff in between races. I normally, in between races, if I am not going to race within a week, if it's going to be 2 weeks or more, I usually, at a minimum, do my carburetor. It just keeps the science project from happening. So stay on top of your carburetor. It'll help a lot. You can do drain the bowls, drain the fuel log, at least have it disconnected, whatever, get it nice and capped off, keep everything nice and tight. The open air is really what kills all that stuff and lets all the moisture in. So you can keep everything capped off nice and tight, from the fuel log down through like the pump and the rest of your fuel system. Usually you're going to be okay if it sits longer than like 2 weeks. Sits around 2 weeks, you should be all right. I mean, the other option is go out and start your car every 2 days, 3 days, 4 days, let it run, let it warm up, keep the fuel flowing through it. That's always an option, but not really an option here, especially winter time. I don't want to be doing that all the time. I got other projects to work on. So winterize your carburetor, definitely. We got other stuff to do, but at least that part is done. All right, guys, so real quick, I've decided to break this up into a couple videos. So I'm going to end this video right here, actually, and consider this the carburetor, fuel system portion of winterizing the car. But there were a couple things that I wanted to mention real quick. I know a couple seconds ago I mentioned that you know, if you can let your car sit for 2 weeks with fuel inside the carburetor and it would be okay. I say that for me. I'm in Nevada. It's extremely dry, like most of the time. So if you're in like in Arizona, if you're in Nevada, you're in Southern California, not near the ocean, you're going to be fine. But if you got a lot of humidity in the air, I don't know if you can get away with 2 weeks, guys. You probably should winterize it every week, or at least go out and start your car every couple days if you're not going to. And when I say winterize it every week, I mean at least, you know, get your carburetor full of something. And that was the other thing I wanted to mention. There's a lot of guys that instead of using marvels, like they're putting their carburetor up, they like to use gas. They'll disconnect the fuel from the fuel pump and manually, usually sometimes gravity feed, or they'll disconnect the fuel log and cap it and drain all the alcohol out, and then they'll just put regular gasoline inside their fuel bowls and stuff, and pump that in a little bit and let it sit like that. A lot of guys do that. It also makes it easier to fire up on the first shot, because gas in a methanol motor, it usually
over gasses it, and usually helps it start really easy, really fast, and then it'll just run through the gas as it runs. But that's up to you. That's not the way I do it. I like to try to keep only methanol in my system rather than chancing that mix of gas, because I know what my carburetor's set for, and I don't want to chance damaging a piston or anything weird. So I just wanted to mention those couple things. If you like this video, make sure you subscribe. I know it was really long. I'm going to try to do better. I know the editing was a little weird. I'm going to try to do better in the future. This was the first video, actual video of this channel. So we're going to do better on all of the above. I'm going to give you some more content on how to winterize the rest of your car. One, maybe two more videos for that in the future. So keep an eye out for those. Again, subscribe. I hope you like what we're doing. Put some comments down below. Let me know if there was something that I completely messed up, or if you got some better information or a better way to do what I did. Let me know. I'm here to learn too. So like I said, I'm just trying to show you guys how I do it. All right, have a good one. We'll see you next time around.